Meeting is recorded. And just want to share this, the finding that the Seed School of Los Angeles County Board of Directors has determined that in accordance with the Government Code Section 54953E1B, that this meeting in person would represent imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E3, the board has also reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency declared by the governor on March 4th, 2020, and finds that this state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of our directors to meet safely in person, and that state and local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. That's a mouthful. There you go. So with that, we can move on to the approval of minutes, if that's okay. The minutes have been circulated. We can start with the December 8th, 2021 minutes. Are there any corrections, additions? Please just take yourself off mute and, oh, you know what? Hang on, you guys, I totally blew it. We need a roll call. So let me back up. I will just do a roll call. I'll start with the board. If you can just say present when I call your name, that would be great. Ruth Stalford, present. Rod Hamilton.
Present.
Thank you. Isabella Costa.
Present.
Thank you. Jen Price-Lesher.
Present.
And do we have any other board members on here? No. Okay. So also joining us, you don't have to respond, Jillian Juman, head of school, Delora Bell from XED, Anita Landecker from XED, Kyle Goss from XED, Leslie Poole from Seed Foundation, Rebecca Bertolino, Seed Foundation, Seed LA, Woody Scott, Seed Foundation. I think I have everybody. Did I forget anybody? Okay. So with that, now we can move on to approval of the minutes. They've been circulated. So we'll start with the December 8th, 2021 minutes. Does anyone have any additions, corrections?
I move approval. This is Rod.
I second.
Great. December 8th, 2021 meeting minutes approved as is. We can move on to our special December 8th, 2021. Everyone has reviewed them. Any additions, corrections?
No, I move approval.
Do we have a second?
It's Rod.
Okay, second special minutes, December 8th, 2021 approved. December 16th, 2021 minutes have been circulated. Additions, corrections? Great.
I move approval. Rod moves approval.
Thank you. Someone want to second? Thank you, Isabel. Seconds. Those minutes are approved. Thank you. We can move on to the next item. Jillian, do you want to take us through these next few?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to put up a presentation really quick. I think we're first doing it's temporary site for the material revision. So this is just an update. We were kind of going back and forth whether a material revision would be needed for having AJU for our first year. It was determined that we do need a material revision. So there's a couple things we need to put in place that we've already kind of started. Hopefully you had a chance to just read the material revision process. The hope is to get it in front of the LACO board in March. Whether it's their first meeting in March or their second on their time scale. So the first thing they asked us to do is our proposal for the charter was approved kind of 2 years ago, or kind of over. There's been more changes to Title VII, special ed, ELD. So they're asking us to do a little bit of a review and update on some of those pieces in our charter that we're going to have to resubmit, which you probably saw in the process. So we have a legal team looking at that to do some updates there. The second one is we're doing a walkthrough and checklist of the facilities for AJU. They're asking for that to be also scheduled beforehand so that when they go in front of the board, they have kind of a nice package to present with full information. You also see there's a letter to the superintendent that also has the attachments with it. That's something that we're going to be working on in the next week or two to send over. And so I think we'll be ready to go so that we can move this pretty quickly. The goal is to have it at least 2 months, 3 months before occupation in August, which is their usual ask. So that's the next steps. I'm not seeing any barriers at this time, but I'll keep the board updated and of course, bring forth the material revision for your approval in our next meeting.
Jillian, what lawyers are reviewing it?
The LACO really everybody knows Janelle, right? So she's a key person. They actually recommended it be her as well. So she's reviewing it. And then she has a partner who's doing it with her.
You mean Janelle Ridley from Young Mini Corps, right?
Yeah.
Right. Janelle Ridley from Young Mini Corps.
Okay.
No, I was like, yeah, a popular.
No, I just wanted to know that I didn't know, so I was just asking. And then what's the timeline for submitting to LACO?
They really say before, it needs to be 30 minutes after you submit the letter, or 30 days after.
30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
like, that's a short timeline.
I know, 30 minutes. No, 30 days. It has to be submitted after you submit the letter. So we're just getting all our ducks in a row. So once we submit, we can just rock and roll.
Cool. Great. We can just, yeah.
Can I have one more follow-up question
Sure.
on the timeline? Is the goal to get it to the early March meeting or to the meeting later on in March?
So, I'd love to say March, but really the early March, but the real truth is, and that's what I spoke to LACO about, is it's about how long it takes to do the review of our charter and making sure we're updated. So Janelle typically needs anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to update, particularly some of the special ed policies. And we have another lawyer that specializes in that. But if she can get it done in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're probably good for that first March date. We may end up doing the second date if we have more updates that we need to do. LACO's fine with either one.
And then Jillian, the decision to have a material, what's the term, material?
Revision.
Material revision.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a LACO? Did we come to that conclusion together with LACO? Did LACO direct it? Or did we get legal counsel saying we needed it?
So legal counsel would say that normally when we have a change of venue, it's typical to have a material revision, right? We've had to do that in the past. So that makes sense. LACO did request it, and it's part of kind of their requirements. I don't know if Anita, you want to give some updates on kind of what you know on your side, or maybe even later for us, but it is coming directly from LACO.
Okay, and I totally appreciate that. I think the reason just behind my question, and we can put this on our agenda, Jillian, for a Monday check-in, among a million other things, is there's what they want, and then there's what we have to do, right? And there may not be any difference between the two of those things, but I actually like for us to be really super certain that the thing that they want us to do, we want to do. And so that's the question. And maybe Janelle, I think it makes sense about the new site, but I want to make sure like that we don't say yes to something that we actually don't have to say yes to. And our legal counsel would say, you know what, you don't really have to do that. So that's just my question. My question in terms of future information is understanding it makes sense in terms of the temporary site. And then are there other areas that they want us to have a material change for? And is it something that we're required to do, or is it something that they want us to do?
Yeah, I think that, that's my normal conversation, Leslie, is like, what's the thing that we really have to do, right? That's my normal thing. This is not one, I'm happy to talk about it more. This is not one that I think we would push. And it is very typical out here. I'm happy to kind of double check with Janelle, even though I did talk to her, but I do think this is one that if we're going to kind of make decisions on what to push and where to push, this might not be the one that we'd want to, because it's pretty, yeah.
No, I completely.
I hear that.
I just want to highlight something, which was, I think, in Leslie's last comment, but what I was thinking was, I just worry that if we do file a material revision, that this opens up us to scrutiny on other aspects of our charter. So I just want to be clear, if we can, with Janelle, like, let's make it really crystal clear that this is just about temporary site relocation at AJU. So I just
Right.
wanted to voice that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I can do is I'll put it in writing, kind of our conversation with Janelle, so we can circle back to this team. The only material revision conversation that they are having is around the site. But you're right, the ask is also to make sure that our charter is updated, right? And providing feedback in other ways. So I think I hear that. And so I'll circle back also with Janelle.
Yeah, and just to sort of fine tune the point is that, this is something that we, that what we're talking about with the temporary site, I mean, Woody and I actually, it's in the charter. It's in there that where this particular thing could require a material revision. And so, that's something we can just keep it focused on that. And there we go.
But I'll circle back with this team on more information. More information doesn't hurt. So that's part one. If more questions come up, just circle back with me. I do have examples of some other material revisions as well. So we have a good model. The next one, switching topics completely for student recruitment. So I want to do a little bit of an update and then talk about some of the conversations we had earlier around really networking wide, but also going very deep in some of the work. So just give me a minute as I present. Sorry, y'all, it's not coming up. Just give me a minute. Can you see this slide?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So just around student recruitment, I'm just going to kind of give an
All right.
overview.
No, we don't.
I
Slide.
see a list
was just-
of slides. I don't see the actual
Right.
deck.
It's not an actual slide. It was a list of slides. You have lots of slides.
I have lots of slides. Okay. Here you go. You were about to see my student presentation. So here's the adult presentation for you. So for student recruitment, so we talked last time, and I certainly have spoken quite a bit about our approach to spring needing to be casting a wide net and kind of getting out there, but also really moving from just sharing the information where people are like, oh, it sounds great, to no, actually, can we actually get in front of your families and students? And so part of that reach is kind of working with the foundation, and the expansion team is coming out once a week to do some work with us, and also doing some hiring, which I'll talk in a minute, to make sure that we're getting more feet on the ground to have some more of those detailed conversations. And as some of you have noted, outreach right now is hard. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. So let's talk actual numbers. As of yesterday, we have 12 folks that have reached out that are interested, kind of want to know more. Some of them around hiring, some of them around student recruitment. So we're often doing one-on-one conversations with them to kind of figure out how we can get them to the next level. 18 have applied, all but one are in District 2. And 85% of the applicants are right now have signed up for the boys dorm. We are registered online as 3. These are folks that have started an application but have not completed it. So we do one-on-one conversations with them. We call them and kind of figure out next steps with them. We have 3 that have decided that boarding school is not for them, although excited about CEDLA notably. We have 4 7th graders who want to come to CEDLA when they're ready to do that. And we have a current 8th, oh, sorry, I don't know what the current 8th grade, that's a current 6th grader. That should read, wrong typing there. Current 6th grader that wants to come to CEDLA. And the last one is we have 9 folks coming to the next February session. And then as of this morning, we have 4 folks that signed up for our February 14th session. So we're kind of moving along a little bit slowly, but we're moving along. Here's a kind of outreach for January to February, how we've been able to kind of get to the next level. And I think as we have more boots on the ground in the next couple of weeks, we'll see this list double, triple. So phase 1 was engaging the community, kind of getting the excitement out there. What's nice is most of us, when we've made calls and kind of followed up on relationships in the last couple of weeks, folks know about CLA. It's just about setting up time to meet with them. As you know, schools push down their startup. So some of them that were planning on starting first week or second week of January push down their startup so that we are now able to kind of do some of the meetings that had been planned earlier in January and so on. So you'll see that we'll be at the KIP vaccine sites that have about 200 students that go there each time. Trap medicine, that is a new one. We're working with DCFS, their monthly meeting presentations, virtual faith leaders. So Watts Gang Task Force. So all of these meetings are on the calendar and kind of ready to go. So that's kind of exciting to share. So I'll just give a minute for you to preview.
Jillian, just so you know, Sophia wanted you to know that she has reached out to every school that has an 8th grade class in Long Beach, and she's waiting to hear back. You can have that.
You know, Sophia, there's one student who signed up from Long Beach, so maybe that's you.
Yeah. Jillian, maybe, yeah. If she's done that initial call to every 8th grade, maybe Leslie or Lear in the next week and actually then do a drop by.
I think that's a great idea. So our next work is kind of, this is a little bit around just forward thinking. So I pause whether I should share this data or not, or how helpful it is, but I do feel like just kind of being transparent around what's around us. So this is pulled from a school down the street. And I see this as kind of hopeful in the sense of, do we have kids around us? Is the interest there? This is not a boarding school. So this is not a comparative apple to apple. This is not kind of a place that we can kind of look and say, this is where we can be right now, but I think it's where we can go. So this particular school pulled 140 kids applications over the summer, which they record in September, October, which is where a lot of the applications come in. You'll see that there's a dip in November and December around some of that activity, but they were able to pull in some numbers, and right now down the street, they're at 206. So you'll see that they've done some kind of outreach. And I think that we can, as we go into next year, as we think about planning forward, but also thinking about outreach in that neighborhood or beyond, numbers are there. And so I'm seeing this as kind of a kind of hopeful way for me to look at it and kind of and look forward. Any questions kind of on our current state of where we're at?
I have a question. When you say it's hard, what do you think the biggest barriers are?
I think that there's a couple things. I think one is we have CBOs who are trying really hard. A good example is I had a great conversation with the LA Library, right? They're used to meeting with hundreds of families in a week across their different sites. Their now meetings have gone down to have anywhere like 14 families that they're kind of meeting with. And so what I'm noticing with organizations is they're really trying to hold on to their own folks, right? We have a church, the 88th in our neighborhood in which we're serving. They're no longer really serving anyone. They're not doing online services anymore. So they're doing outreach to newsletters. So I think folks are really trying to kind of get their own partners and families back in and trying to loop them in and keep them interested. And so I think adding another thing has been hard and just takes more time. So it's bigger than just flyers. I think you and I talked about that, Ruth, even in December, where folks are just trying to get things going. For schools, it's the same thing. We had an appointment 2 weeks ago with a school who now had to push back their start time. And then now they're kind of testing kids all week. And so they're feeling stressed. So I think we're just need to keep at it, keep going, right? We'll have a relationship, go back to it. And it just requires a lot of persistence and more people on the ground. That's what I'm seeing. I don't know. Woody, do you want to add to any of that, or anybody that's been doing, I know Jackie, I don't know if she's on the call, has been doing a little bit of outreach.
No, I'm on the call and we've been doing a lot of outreach.
Yeah.
And the main issue that we've encountered is just an unexpected impact of COVID. And people are just reluctant to engage in anything where they have to be too close to you. They're reluctant to even discuss anything about making changes in what they're doing with their children. And we've encountered that in cases where, I mean, in situations where we've never had problems with enrollment. We've discovered just a reticence and a reluctance from the adults to make a commitment for real engagement in anything. So
Yeah.
so I'm not surprised at what you're encountering.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of follow-up and creativity, right? Like if you can't do it here, let's do it this way. If we can't, right? So it's just, so that doesn't take coming to a mass meeting and then thinking through creatively around that wasn't helpful. Sitting down one-on-one and saying, oh, but we could do that meeting, or let's actually form that meeting is helpful for folks.
Jillian, if I recall the last update we had in December, there was a variance of, I think, 3 new applications or something of that nature. Are we still asking where they learned about SEED? Are we trying to, double down on the resources or the connections that actually result in applications? I'm curious to hear your thought process on that.
Yeah, so we're not getting at this point, I think we will, particularly because we're now in kind of cohorts of schools, right? Like you saw, we have KIP that's now on board in different ways. We have different groups that are helping. So we'll be able to target. Right now, for instance, there's like one from Vox Academy, there's one from Skirball Middle School, right? So there's pieces everywhere, and there's not really a pattern. Where they're hearing about it is from either a newsletter or something being sent out, or a guidance counselor saying something. And so that's kind of the message. So we're doubling down now on, let's actually kind of sit down with those guidance counselors and like figure out a meeting where we can actually talk to all kids, or like leverage those families who are excited about CLA to talk about that, which happened at Skirball yesterday. So that's kind of the strategy right now, but we don't have a one spot yet. I don't know, Woody, did you have any more to add to that?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Jillian, I'm curious. I remember seeing just a few moments ago that you had the Department of Social Services on your list. What has been their reaction? Because they do handle the foster kids.
Yeah, so we've had pockets. So I just emailed the regions this morning actually to follow up. So we've had kind of regional directors one by one kind of reach out and have conversations. Their big message is like, let's actually train the social workers and caseworkers on how to do the application because they have the relationships with it. And I would say that I've been leveraging relationships at UCLA and others to leverage the other regional directors at DCFS and other kind of county areas, because it's been hard to get in there.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to kind of say it. If you have folks that you feel like we can reach out directly to, the more the merrier, I think, with a large organization like that.
Jillian, oh, I'm sorry, Jackie, go
That's
ahead.
okay, just real quickly. Were you working with one directly on Vermont or some other entity?
Yeah, so we've 2 folks visited it. I think Woody, you might have, and then we had a team member go out there. They asked us to leave because they need an appointment with someone. So that's what we're doing right now is we got a couple of names there that we can start to make appointments with. If you know someone, Jackie, please send it to me.
Okay, I'll ask some of my staff members. I think they do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Jillian, do you think you've identified like the level of, or the point of contact, or the position that has the greatest like access to families and children? Like, have you figured, like, is it the social worker? Is it a caseworker? Like what's the position, the individual that has like, where if you get to that person, there are no more barriers to families?
It's 100% social workers and caseworkers, 100%. And so what it is like going through the tree, right? You have to first build trust, and then you kind of get down to the director levels. Then you get down to the folks that work with the social workers. And then, so it's a little bit like that. I would say that we've been able to do 2 large group social work sessions. So I think we're getting there. We just need to get it across all the regions. That would be my hope. Any last questions before I jump into the
I have one more.
Yeah.
Do you have any more detail about the event we're talking about doing on the 26th?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So we have a meeting this Friday to kind of bring the great minds together around that. So I'll send out more information when we know kind of location. We're looking for a park in District 2. There's also some conversations around kind of one of the mental health buildings, but it's not as accessible to families. So probably a park. We're going to ask partners to kind of make it more STEM focused. DMH this is part of their kind of District 2 priorities, but also kind of their larger strategies. So they're interested in supporting like iPad grab bags and food drives and those kinds of things to kind of get folks out there. So I should know by Monday of next week more about kind of the nitty gritty of it. But hopefully save the date, please. Bring kids, families. It'll hopefully be a nice event that we're hosting and getting applicants.
Awesome. February 26th.
February 26th. And then I'll loop back if we don't have a location, Ruth, because I know you have the 27th open. Okay. All right. Should be fun.
And just, let me know on behalf of the foundation explain if there's any supports that we could provide in the planning and execution of that event or in the meeting on Friday as well.
Awesome. I already put it on your calendar as a calendar hold, Woody. So
Right.
hopefully.
And Woody, maybe that's a date if we think we're going to drive a lot of attention to it, where maybe 2 of the 3 of you go to LA versus just one person.
Yep.
I put it on everybody's calendar. So
Awesome. I did see that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jillian, are we, have we, and this might be a Nelora Jillian question. Have we explored if the mixed use team would let us use a corner of the site? Like they can't use any of our side of the site because it's under construction, but like, is there any value in using a corner of the site? And is it even possible or feasible? Because that we don't need a lease for. I mean, we don't need.
Right, they've been a little funny about their site, so
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just
right.
being honest. I'm just being honest. They've been a little funny about it, so I can't definitively tell you. But it could be that after I think they'll be done doing what they need to do. We can ask, but they've been a little funny about it.
Jillian, would you be interested or you want to be somewhere else in the community?
No, I think if people want a sneak peek. So I think if we could do it on the site, I didn't even think of it because I know that's been a little bit hard sometimes.
Mhm.
But Nelora, if it's something that we think we can ask, let's do it.
Okay, we could talk about the logistics of that, because their site right now is kind of fenced in, and I don't know exactly how you get to it. So let's look at it and talk about it, and we can ask them. I
Okay.
think they are in a frenzy to close right now, so maybe I think they may have gotten over the things they needed to do to close that related to the site. So maybe they'll, share.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think Nelora, I think Steve said on Friday or on Wednesday that they think they're gonna move the trailer in 4 to 6 weeks.
Mhm.
Because they'll have framed some of our building. And maybe the mixed use team wants to be a better neighbor than they've felt like they've been in the last couple of weeks. And it might be a good opportunity. And if you want some help asking or reaching out, I don't mind participating.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jillian. Sorry for the
Interruptions, great. So that's one piece of our strategy. Like, let's get deep, let's get out there, right? I think that we'll have a double of that list already. Just this morning, Alair booked 3 school sites. So, right, so we're moving in on this side. The other piece is kind of getting out there. And so, and getting broad and making sure that there's a message about Seed LA that really reflects what we want it to, and that families are kind of hearing it in repeated place. We know based off of data that if families hear things 10 times, right, then there's some excitement there. So one of the pieces is Hulu ads, kind of getting out there and it's affordable. The other one is kind of making sure that we're in newspapers and radio, right? I shared I was in the radio last Sunday. We're hoping to kind of boost that up a little bit. And the other proposal is, and I sent it out to you guys, is around NBC and focusing on these areas. And so we were able to kind of get a pretty good package for something that usually is very expensive around Telemundo, making sure that we're getting to both African-American, Spanish-speaking families in Los Angeles. So we're targeting families that make less than 75,000, which is the lowest marker, and with children between the ages of 6 and 17 in LA County, and making sure that the message is getting out there. We have a communications specialist who's working on kind of the messaging to entice, excite, but also kind of really make sure we're talking to families that feel like we understand the need and kind of what's out there in the community. And then we have some really great videographers that are putting together existing footage that we have that comes from students from SEED. So that's kind of where we are. This would be 15 or 30 seconds. We're going for the 30 seconds. It's non-skippable ads on all of these channels until the end of March. So the proposal is at $27,000, and it'll be both in Spanish and in English. So pausing with any questions, thoughts. Hopefully this feels a little exciting on kind of this strategy.
I was like wondering what NBC was, and so I'm glad that it really is NBC. Like,
So I have a question about the ad itself and Hulu and what other charges there may be related to all this stuff. So Hulu, the ad is targeted towards parents, or like what's the thrust of the ad?
It's actually, yeah, it's very similar. So the threshold actually can go down to 60,000 and below. And it's families that have, I believe it's 7 to 17-year-olds is the Hulu kind of bandwidth in LA County. And families that are also, we were able to check mark in Hulu, like folks who have been looking into education as well. Like, right. So like we were able to kind of check mark different subgroups that would support for Hulu.
and then Jillian.
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead, Listen.
No, I was looking at the start date. Does that mean that this is already started, or it?
No, I would ignore that.
Okay, great. I can ignore anything. And then just from this, is Alicia aware? Have you sort of pulled Alicia in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was, Alicia was starting the project and ultimately couldn't get it done till mid or late February. So we outsourced someone with a similar vision.
Yeah, no worries. I just in terms of all media, just so that we are actually seeing all media, that Alicia, it doesn't have to be me, that someone on the team from the development team is seeing all media before it goes live, even if it's just, whatever we're doing. So if someone could just actually review, and just say to Alicia that you need her to schedule an hour or two of her time somewhere, and I'll mention it to her also. But just so we can close that loop on our end.
Yeah, I think so. I meet with Alicia once a week. She's aware of this project, and I would absolutely loop her in. I will definitely.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
So I think this is
yeah. Sorry. No. Please finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say this is cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I'm curious though, because of the cost, right? So have we figured out the best way, like if you tell me this is the best way to reach our target demographics within LA County, I'm on board. I'm just curious, like if social media advertisements, which are less expensive, is another route, like what have we been doing that's in addition to this, so that I know if this is our main focus on our strategy, like I just want to be aware of that, or if there's like complementing strategies as well. If you could just voice that for me right now. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a social media campaign, 2 of them happening. One of them is through kind of influencers that are going to go out in the next couple of weeks. Similar, we're going to use the same videos actually for those. So it's going to be multi-use for that. We also have a campaign going out around for blogging and those kinds of things around through our Twitter and through our, what's that, Lara, are you on here? What's the other one that I'm never cool about? Is she on here? She always saves me around some of the, it's tweeting
Twitter,
and
Instagram, Instagram,
Instagram,
Snapchat.
Twitter,
TikTok.
TikTok, LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those hip ones. So we're campaigning in that way and kind of working. I think that here's my kind of overall statement around kind of where we're at. I think we are a little bit catching up with ourselves. And I want to get into a place in April where I'm able to say we did everything. And we are out there. And we are on NBC. We know families are on Telemundo. These are all recommendations that came to us, right? Like, why don't you? So I want to be able to say we're on social media. We have reached out to newspapers. We have done radio. We're blogging. We're part of kind of what's going on out there. We're meeting with families. We're meeting with schools, and families have an opportunity to get hit every time they watch Bravo and see CLA Live. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've never done television really ads for schools. I do think NBC, out of all of them, because of their Spanish outreach, is really a powerful tool for us. So that's kind of actually my biggest truth. I think we're trying it. I think this is the cheapest package I got from the different television places, and they hit the highest Latina population. So that's
The other thing I would just say is that you just never know what the thing is that's going to trigger momentum, right? I think that in 2 or 3 years, that momentum will be our families, and 50% probably of all the young people that come into the school will come in word of mouth from someone else, right? Or a school counselor who has 3 kids at Seed and it's like, oh my God, like this has been the deal breaker.
That's right.
I don't know that we've ever done a lot of TV, but again, like we never recruited in a pandemic, right? And so, I think Jillian, the only sort of thing that I would ask is that we sort of figure out, and not even Jillian, but the team, right? Like we figure out like how to assess what worked and what did not work, right? Or at least assess like at the first part of March, right? Like, where are we getting the most traction so that we can narrow our focus on just, those last 3 weeks, like narrow our focus on, the place where we're getting the most bang for our buck. But I would just say that I think to Jillian's, articulation of her strategy, you gotta go through, a multi-pronged strategy, right? Like buses, Department of Children, county agencies, banging on every middle school 8th grade door, right? And then something's going to trigger the dam. And then I think we got to just be paying attention so that we know what that is.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I mean, going back to kind of the phase 3, there is a point in our work where we won't have to do much outreach and people start calling you and kind of wanting more about, there's a moment where that happens, and it is like a dam that happens. And so that's what we're trying to get to. And that's what we're trying to trigger a little bit. And for right now, and I think most CBOs are saying this with me, I'm not sure what the dam is. But this could be it, and it certainly won't hurt. And I think we should try it.
Jillian, this isn't the totality of it, right? So Hulu's an additional charge, and getting this spot done is an additional charge, right?
Yeah, so this one is, as per kind of like the contract and kind of where we're at, this one is the big nut, right? This is $27,000. We're spending $5,000 at Hulu. Same thing where they're doing 15 to 30 seconds, 100% non-skippable, and it's about the same number of impressions. And so, but that's also just Hulu, right? And it's only for accounts. 75% of Hulu users in Los Angeles don't have the account where you can actually skip your ads. So we're able to tackle that 75%. NBC tackles a lot more, which is why it's a lot more money, and you can't skip. So, and there's no account to skip. So that's the difference there. And then the other monies that we're using around this is social media ads. is kind of outreaching. So it's anywhere from $500 to, $2,500 here and there to kind of make sure that we're getting out and about. Is that helpful, Ruth?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Because I don't know this on Hulu. Can I join Hulu for free and then see ads, or do I have to pay a monthly fee?
You have to pay a monthly fee, but it is, it's low. So they're about some,
Okay.
Yeah, it's $4.99.
I just wanted to make sure that a barrier to people seeing
Yeah.
this wasn't the cost for subscriptions, which is where I think I was targeting my question. But I think the Hulu audience addresses that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hulu's
and
$4.99.
while there are subscriptions for a lot of these things, there are also, you get a new phone and like there's all these crazy packages that come along with certain things. When you buy something, you get, Hulu for 4 months, or you get Disney Plus for 4 months. There's a lot of stuff that comes with a lot of the everyday things, but yeah, there is still subscriptions, cost for some of these.
And
To
then
that
for those
point, we
who-
probably should think through some talking points, considering the demographics of LA County and the digital divide. There may be some questions about accessibility of these. I think to Jillian's point, we're taking a multi-tiered approach, so we're hitting people from every angle. But I might anticipate some questions around that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would just say, as someone who's broken up with cable, I can get a number of the NBC Universal channels with an antenna,
Mhm.
right? So, don't underplay the power of the antenna reception. And so I think, to your point, Woody, I think that would be really helpful when we ask the question, like, there's our on the ground strategy, there's our CBO strategy, there's our CBO strategy with for organizations that do direct service. And then there's our media and PR strategy. And I think each of those strategies probably needs some descriptor for like the target audience, right? Or the reach.
And let's not underestimate, we see NFL on here, guys. I mean, that is, we have some really heavy hitters on here that are more than I think even on the left side when you see Oxygen. I mean, those are all important, but there's some really, to your point, with an antenna or even going to a bar and watching it, right? It's going to get seen, which is cool.
I would also, maybe it was mentioned, but Spectrum TV, that has become the default channel if you turn off your cable, for those of us who are not cord cutters. And it always comes up with Spectrum, and they have news 24 hours a day. If we could get a piece on that could be more descriptive, it tends to repeat, so it gets recycled, and so it can get a lot of bias. I have no idea how to get to them. But I could scratch my head. I think I used to serve on the board of the woman who's the news director there. So let me see what I can do about trying to get a news story that could be broader than just a spot.
That would be great, Rod. That would be, and you and I can coordinate a little bit too. I think Spectrum's a great idea. And you're right, they run again and again, and we can coordinate. Yeah, perfect.
So Ruth and
Okay.
Rod, if you can loop me in. I actually am just returning a call from someone from Spectrum who called and wanted to do a news story.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, and then there's someone else who called the other day, and so I'll give you that name. I just hadn't pulled it up yet. Okay, great.
Oh, I started to say, never mind. You got it.
No, there'll be no never minding. I will turn it over. When I connect Jillian, I'll also connect you.
Let's get it. I think we just gotta spread our wings and just go as far as we can with what we got. So I think that's great. Thank you. So this is my recommendation. I think we should give NBC a go. I think we should see how much is impacting our viewers, and particularly interested in our community that we have less applicants for, which is our Latina population. I'd love to move it into.
Are there any more questions? Yeah, otherwise, because let's be mindful of the time. There's a lot of ground to cover left. So are there any more questions? If not, I can, I'll bring a motion to approve the payment of the $27,000 to execute the commercial advertisement package proposed by NBC to support the student recruitment efforts throughout LA County. Second,
I second.
okay. All those in favor, I'll actually call your name and you can say, just to make it easier. So Rod Hamilton,
Yes.
Jackie Kimbrough,
Aye.
Isabella Costa,
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher,
Aye.
Ruth Stalford, aye. Sophia is not here. Did I get everybody? Yes. So the motion is approved unanimously. We can move on. Congratulations.
Thanks for going down the path with me. Am I the next one with hiring? Okay, we're back at it. Here we go. Just a quick update, nothing too exciting. I'll go as quick as possible, answer questions. So we're currently, I brought on 3 consultants. One is to do some operations support to develop our school safety plan for 2 reasons. The first draft is due in February to LACO. The second is it will get our ducks a row a little bit before we do our walkthrough. So it'll help to have some kind of answers ready to go. They're also hiring an operations manager for us, kind of navigating that, community engagement liaisons, and also supporting some of the recruitment strategy. She's done this work, I would say, for the past 12 years in LA. So she's kind of seen the up, down, sideways of enrollment, and really believes that with some hustle and some people, our strategy makes a lot of sense. So I'm just kind of following a little bit of her guidance. Ms. Lopez is doing HR support for us. She's developing an employee handbook aligned to kind of California law, making sense that it kind of aligns to not only other seed schools, but also kind of the employment things that we need to be focusing on here. And then hiring and onboarding an HR manager. And then we have Ms. Rubio, who, as I mentioned earlier, supporting with communication and really thinking deeply about our LA Black and Latino communities and the messaging that they need. So we did some kind of sparring this morning around kind of the feedback we're hearing from families and kind of what that communication would look like. And then working through not only the video ads, but social media. She's connected in those ways, newspapers. So she's doing some of the outreach press releases, those kinds of things. Part-time support, we hired Terrell, thank goodness. He is all the joy into the world, Terrell. He's leading District 2 and some parts of District 1, particularly priority areas around CBOs and family communication and outreach. He started this week. He's also managing our public allies. We have 2 more liaisons that we're hoping to bring on part-time in the next couple of weeks to really focus on Antelope Valley and some administrative support, which brings some joy to probably me and Ruth just a little bit around some of the administrative pieces that we need to put to place. So that's kind of the snapshot. All of our jobs are posted online, and we are in the final selection with 2 candidates for our FACE director position. So we're getting there. That's kind of what's happening. Any questions? That's my only update there.
Jillian, I was curious where you had posted the jobs, because I looked on LinkedIn before this call and I didn't see any jobs on LinkedIn for CLA.
We used the foundation LinkedIn account because our LA LinkedIn account, we don't know who owns it. So we had to rebuild another LinkedIn account. So you're going to start to see stuff coming through our LA LinkedIn account, a new LinkedIn account that now says official Seed LA account. So that's going to come out and you'll see that pretty shortly. I think Larry, in the next couple of days, you're going to be uploading, but it's all coming through the foundation right now. So
the best place to point people who are interested is to our website. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Website until we're up and going, Isabel. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, that is my update for hiring.
But one quick question.
Sorry, one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, how do we not know who owns the LinkedIn account for our name? And is there a process by which, I don't know how to do it, but we can find out?
Yeah, it seems.
It does. I'm joining you I'm smiling because yes, it feels hard when we've been working for like months. I don't, Woody or Alaire, can you guys give the backstory? Because every time I'm like, why? It's like
Well, you guys, whatever the backstory is, Woody, could you just reach out to Faygre
I think
and
we
just
did.
find,
Yeah.
you reached out to Faygre and asked
Not
them
the favorite, no.
Yeah, no, let's, I don't know what the backstory is, but I think it's a knowable thing, right? And I think some lawyer can help us. And since they're our lawyer, I'm sorry, I'll take the backstory, but Jillian, it sounds like you just want to know, right? Like you just want it resolved. Yeah, so let's not talk. We don't need.
Okay.
Let's reach out to Faygre today and tell Faygre that someone's using our name. We own this name and we need access to our name. It's a legal issue for me. And so.
Yes.
Sorry, there's just too much for us to do to dicker over stuff we can resolve. Sorry, but I'm gonna mute myself. Bye, everybody.
I'm also going to mute myself. I'm just going to say yes.
Just one more question, Jillian, on the HR consultant. The last I heard was that the Seed Foundation was providing us that support. So can you just clarify that that's no longer the case?
Yeah, so the director, so the director at the Seed Foundation has taken a new position elsewhere. I can't remember where, but somewhere else. And so I think they're in the process, I'm speaking for you guys, but I think they're in the process of hiring someone new. So we just needed some folks to just kind of get on the ground with us and get some stuff going for right now. And then we'll kind of come back to the team. I would say that Woody's team is providing screening support. There's a lot of hustle happening on that side for sure around the resumes.
Yeah, so I think in the next 2 weeks, I think we have 3 interviews this week, Isabel, and then the leadership is going to actually do some interviews next week. And then I think we should have someone in place within the next 2 weeks. Also, I think that Jillian's engaged the school support team, and I think they are reaching out to some local Teach for America alumni networks. And so I think they have like 4 or 5 different networks, and this week they're posting. Jillian, did you say something?
No, I was just saying that's good. That's great.
Yeah, I think that Kanique and her team are actually also posting on some of their resources. And so I do think that we're probably going to have a pretty strong presence in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, I think I'm ready. Please, if any questions come up, you know where to find me. I'm tossing it back to Ruth.
And I was thinking of tossing this to Isabel. Isabel, take it away.
Yes, so Ruth and I connected over the holiday break sometime in discussion of the creation of a governance committee, specifically for this board, acknowledging that we know that there's not many of us, but really still wanting to put a focus on governance and in particular around board composition and ensuring that we govern effectively as a board. So I apologize, Ruth, I did not get this to you. I was supposed to get language around what the potential responsibilities and duties of this governance committee would be. But some of the high level purposes in what I'm proposing for the governance committee would be monitoring and maintaining board-wide adherence to governance best practices. So a connection to the Equity Institute that I am participating on would also help with that. Onboarding and training new and existing board members, so ensuring that everyone is up to date on all of the legal policies, but also the practices and responsibilities that we hold specific at Seed LA. Guaranteeing a steady board leadership, so ensuring that we have continuous leadership that is supported by everyone, and also by setting goals, which is something that we haven't discussed. But wanting to make sure that we are holding ourselves accountable for the roles that we have volunteered to take on as board members, and setting these goals in coordination with Jillian and the school to ensuring that we're keeping ourselves on track. And so those were some of the suggested purposes that I was supposed to send Ruth, and I apologize for that in advance, but I'm recommending that we move forward with the creation of a governance committee.
Thank you. That was beautifully done. And I think we can, once once we do form this committee, we can then, share out on paper what it will entail and what the criteria is. But I do agree that we should get started on this right now. And I won't speak for her, but I'm pretty sure Sophia also had wanted to be part of the committee. So we can take that next step after we form it. Do you, Isabel, want me to bring a motion to the floor? Are there any questions related to that? Because I do know that we've also had some interest from people, reaching out to us saying they'd like to be on the board. So we also would like get this infrastructure in place so that we can deal with those inquiries. So does anyone have any questions around this?
Leslie, I'm curious if there's a similar structure for the Seed Foundation.
There is, and there is for the schools.
Okay.
Great.
I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. So I can bring the motion to the floor if everyone's ready. Per Article 4 of the amended and restated bylaws of the Seed School of Los Angeles County, the Board of Directors authorizes the formation of the, what are we calling it? The Governance Committee. And currently we are appointing Isabel Acosta and Sophia Echeverria to the committee with room to include more. But those in favor, I will just, oh, can I have a second? May I have a second, please?
Second from Rod.
Thank you, Rod. All those in favor, and I will call out your name. Ruth Stalford, aye. Isabel Acosta.
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Jackie Kimbrough.
Aye.
Rod Hamilton.
Aye.
Motion is passed unanimously. We have now formed a governance committee. Thank you very much, Isabel. Shall I keep going, Jillian? You good?
That nomination for the.
Yeah, so in keeping with Isabel Acosta, we also know that we had a position vacant on our board when Sarah Ali left. She was our secretary, so we would like to fill that position. And I would like to nominate Isabel Acosta to the role of board secretary. May I have a second?
Second.
Great. All those in favor say aye. I will reach out. Ruth Stalford, aye. Rod Hamilton.
Aye.
Thank you. Jackie Kimbrough.
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Did I leave anybody out? Isabel, I think you can vote for yourself.
Say aye.
I believe we have a unanimous vote here. The motion passed, the nomination passes. Isabel Acosta is now our board secretary, and thank you for your service.
Okay. So now we're moving into fiscal policies. I'm going to toss it over to Kyle.
I think I will start with the documents. There were two, I don't know, I can share my screen if it's helpful, but I think I'll just go over the three high points here. And if I should jump in, feel free to suggest it. But really there's three things happening here. And if I'll remind the board that we had a conversation about this in the October meeting, I believe. And so we're kind of coming back to most of those main points there. And the first is, there were a couple of like inconsistencies across the document. So this attempts to align everything to a $25,000 board approval threshold for expenses. Not like clearly outlined in the budget, I should add, but like, so for example, the NBC contract we approved earlier, that would be a board contract under this under these new fiscal policies. So you'll see that $25,000. It was already in there, but there were just a few places where there were some like missing numbers, and so that aligns here. Second thing is a conversation we touched on in October, which was credit card limits. I have to look at it, but I actually don't think there was a number. Maybe it was 5,000, but we discussed 10 to 15 in October. The draft I've put in front of you guys today is at 15 per card. We basically like that would be set by these policies if we approve them today. And then the third issue that is adapted here is I would describe as much more of a technical change, which is almost every other client that works with XED has moved to kind of a third-party invoice payment system. And so this, like, I've just adapted the kind of somewhat boilerplate language to allow for this third-party payment system. So right now, I have kind of permission to use signature stamps for Leslie, Jillian, Ruth, and I'm using those to stamp hard copy paper checks. Like what we've moved to based on these policies is using a provider called Invoice Pay, where they just direct debit the bank account once everything's approved via the fiscal policy procedures. And then they cut the checks to the vendors individually. All right, that was a lot, but those are the three changes happening. And so I'm happy to entertain any questions about those.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I think to Jillian. Jillian, are you seeking to have everyone who has a credit card have a limit up to 15,000, or are we seeking up to? It's just the nuance there for me.
Yeah, so I think it should be up to, I think I would give myself 15 and probably anybody afterwards, anywhere from 5 to 10. Typically, the principals I've supervised in the past had 10. So I think that would be my recommendation for there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question. I think we asked this last time we were talking about this, was what was customary. So
yeah, and just because I think Isabel asked a question about the other practice. Again, I think Jillian needs what Jillian, I think the head of school needs what the head of school needs, and like clearly, because she could spend $15,000 like tomorrow. I think that I've not ever seen a school leader with a credit card limit above 10,000, and that is only in startup. That historically, what I have seen across the SEAT network is about 5,000. But really there's a question about how much debt the school actually wants to be put at risk. And that's really the question for me. Like how much debt do we want to put at risk? And I don't seek in any way to limit it, but just, that's my question.
I think the amount that we're proposing is it jumps off the conversation we had in October. I think what we're proposing is the comfortability, if it's the comfortability of the board to do so. Kyle, I don't know if you have any add-on to that, but I think that one thing we did talk about is if you have, 3 leaders that have a total of 15,000, which is why it needs to be up to, right? That would be a concern. That would be a concern for me.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on that and that earlier conversation, this issue of the total debt, right? So there's the individual cards and then there's an up to for the total number of cards. So right now it could be 1 to 3 other people with an up to. So I'm wondering if the board, in approving or considering something like this, we also have an aggregate up to amount so that we're not taking on more debt than we actually have the ability or appetite to take on.
Yeah.
I think that one thing I'd say, so this number that we're talking about right now is a per card limit. So I think that is aligned to what you're saying. But I think the other thing, just to be clear, is the board would have to approve any additional credit cards. So like I might suggest that if Jillian were to come back to the board with a suggestion for additional cards, that might be a good point to look. We might be in the future revisit the total, potentially put limits on those. I think that just that's one more control I wanted to mention.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to put controls on our head of school, and I would say, Kyle, that's actually not in keeping with practice, that the head of school actually, I mean, and it could be that Jillian says that her senior leadership team, or like the boarding director, the principal of boarding, principal of academic, Jillian, facilities, right, or HR, because HR is forever posting thing, blah, 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 right? All I'm just saying, like, you know, what's in my mind, it's like, what's the bottom line, right? What's the individual limit? And then what's the bottom line? And that's all I don't know that Jillian will have the opportunity, or the head of school, like if it's to come back and wait a month to get a new credit card for the boarding director. Like, I don't want to put that kind of restraint on her autonomy to make this happen. I just want to know what the bottom line is. That's all I'm asking, is like, how much debt and what's our limit?
And the only thing I would add is that it's probably not clarified in the fiscal policies, because as I remember, we kind of drafted them quickly at a different time for the charter. But all of this really should be laid out in the fiscal policies. And when LACO matches anything is said, it'll be matched to the fiscal policies. So the debt that you've allowed, the number of credit cards, and I'm super sensitive to this because I've actually been doing these fraud workshops for CCSA in the last 2 weeks. They're now on the video, they're recorded, but it's about all the different ways of fraud, and it's just being careful and with credit cards and knowing the limits and knowing who has them and having it all detailed in the fiscal policies. So we can probably get you some draft further policies that are, well, I don't even remember what's in the current ones, but we should update it if it's to accommodate 50. I doubt it says 15,000.
I think they're generally pretty strong policies, Anita. I think they're in line with a lot of our
Okay.
clients I'm working
Okay,
with.
good. Well, we did them relatively quickly a while ago, so.
I think there's two pieces here, right? So one of them is that I think today we're hoping to walk away with allowing me to have a credit card. So right now it's personal pocket, right? For the last 6 months. So we need something. And I do think that for right now, the ask would be 15,000. And I can imagine at least 2 people for right now, right? I want to be able to come back and say something else, but at least 2 people in the future, starting probably this summer, need to have access to some kind of credit card for emergency reasons. That needs to be anywhere from $500 to $7,500 on their credit card for emergency reasons, right? Typically, I could also buy stuff for folks, but that's what I'd recommend. So that would put us at about 25,000 if we're going to kind of be conservative. Did I do the math right there? Yes, 25,000. That's not how, yeah.
You're out of what? Sorry.
I'm out of questions.
So I guess my question is, what can we do now? And I'm asking the board to chime in here so that we can put a motion forward that would accept that we had distributed the fiscal policies with the red line version and the clean version in the agenda that would adopt these this policy. Do we then want to have a motion that is pending X, Y, and Z, pending a clarification on what our bottom line is, like what, or do we, feel free to jump in here.
If I'm just going to jump, it would be helpful if we could actually do, I recommend what Kyle mentioned. So if we could talk about, like, there's only one credit card right now on the table. There's nothing else right. And so if we can start there and then say that we will kind of make sure our policies are in place for any future credit cards, particularly in the actual policy, because it's not written that way right now. I agree with Anita. I think that might be a helpful way to move it forward and also hold us accountable.
And I think the only other thing, Ruth, I would say is just that I think Jillian is right. And I think just making sure that we reconcile all of her out-of-pocket expenses, like at a moment in time, right? Like, I don't know, where are we? As of February 5th, does that make sense? And then it just is cleaner moving forward.
Does that sit well with the board to kind of just talk about the card that's at hand and then figure out policies for future cards? How does that sit?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So we're talking
I'm
about
okay with it.
Okay, sorry. So we're talking about the totality though of this fiscal policy, not just a credit card.
Right.
Correct. So we're saying we would, the motion would be to approve these amended, the amended fiscal policy, which replaces the previous fiscal policies, with the
Can I ask questions, Ruth, while
Yeah,
you think
please.
of the language and the jargon? So quickly, as I read it right now under credit cards and the procedures, there isn't a delineation of who approves who has access to a credit card. Did I read that right, Kyle? I mean, I see a line where it says the name and the organization as authorized by the governing board, but it doesn't say the governing board will approve who gets credit cards. And it doesn't say the head of schools will approve who gets credit cards. So who's approving who gets a credit card?
So, there are two places on the page 2 under lines of authority governing board. The 5th bullet is approves the opening of business credit cards. You might, I could, I think that's enough to say that like Jillian couldn't go back and just open an additional credit card on that one, like without the board's approval. But it's not super specific. So and then I think it's kind of in the, I can just share my screen if it's helpful here, but and then under credit card where I mean, I think this policy up top is as close as it comes to kind of hitting on that. But again, I mean, it's not laser clear, but it suggests to me that you would need a motion from the board to open.
Okay, because I think that my understanding and what I just heard is that doesn't allow for the flexibility. So Jillian needs a credit card now, we can approve it now, but if she hires someone next week and they need a credit card to begin doing business, they'd have to wait until we have another board meeting in order for us to approve that. And so what I'm hearing is that that's not as nimble as we'd like to be, right? We'd like to give some authority to Jillian to be able to issue credit cards at a lower maximum to employees that she hires.
Isabel, that was me saying that as a non-voting member of the board with no real voice here. And so I should just acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
would
yeah.
keep it because based on my presentations lately, this is something that is more organized, more traditional lately in policies. And it's based on, obviously, there's been credit card fraud among charter schools. So now they put out guidance about how it should be in fiscal policies. So that's, I think that keeping this could make sense for right now. And
Yeah, I mean, and Jillian has said what would work. She said, can I have one now? Because my out-of-pocket is inappropriate. And then I'll come back because I think I'm going to hire 2 people by the end of this fiscal year who will probably need it. And so, or I think this does it for her as long as we get her what she needs.
I also think we'll have a board meetings that, some frequency. I know we have them scheduled right now per quarter, but I think we're going to obviously already have a few more here and there. So if we need to get together to approve some additional credit cards, we'll be able to.
And I would
Right.
just.
Is it possible to vote to approve the credit card for a given position, agnostic of the person that's hired yet, just as a kind of a placeholder, or is that not an acceptable workaround? I get, no, it's okay.
I was just gonna say, like, I think the fact that Jillian has a card, $15,000 limit, like, it gives you a month of flexibility. I think if there are things you can't buy with an invoice, like, you've got a credit card you can use that's not out of pocket, even if it's different staff. So I feel like that's not great when you're bigger, but like, you know, we can do it for now.
I think right now it's totally fine. And I think in a year, if it becomes cumbersome or weird, right, we can kind of revisit it. There's also the opportunity where the head of school and the like treasurer, for example, can do some approvals. There's stuff you can do later on, but I think right now we're okay.
And I think like this is, I think, a separate motion, but I do just want to acknowledge that as part of, I think, this fiscal policy update, we do want to address signatories to the bank accounts per kind of the governing board's policies through additional motions after we address this one adoption of the.
Why don't we jump into this? If there's no other questions, let's jump into this vote and then we'll jump into that one. Is that okay? Just to kind of keep it a little bit separate.
No, for sure. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Kyle. I do have one more question on cash distribution. So the way I'm reading it now, there's two forms to distribute cash. It's through a bank check and through this invoice pay system. Our preference is what I'm hearing from you, Kyle, is that we will do the invoice pay system and only in emergency issue a direct bank check. Is that correct? Can we modify the language then so that we see like our preferences, we are going to be using this outsourced payment provider, and when the timeline doesn't work or for whatever reason, we will default to a bank check.
Yeah, I mean the only, like, it's not absolute emergencies because sometimes it, yeah, like, but yeah, I'm happy to add some language to it.
Ruth, I'm happy to pass. So I pass a motion to approve the fiscal policies and procedures as amended on January 29th, allowing for the changes we've described with check distribution. And then there's no changes, correct, to credit card. We're going to leave it as is. Yes.
I second.
Yes.
All those in favor, I will call you out. Ruth Stalford, aye. Isabella Costa,
Aye.
Jackie Kimbrough,
Aye.
Rod Hamilton,
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you.
Awesome. So moving on to our next piece, which is Kyle alluded to, is the second part of the fiscal policy. Do you want to jump into that a little bit, Kyle, and then we can go into a vote?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as just aligning, I think, well, two things. One is, as it's currently set in the bank's eyes, Leslie Poole is the manager of CLA as a school. And so I think we wanted to entertain a motion to add Jillian as head of school formally as a manager of CLA, the school. And then also just to simply update our signatories to formally add Jillian as a kind of account signer. And then the secretary of the board, which has transacted earlier in this meeting, and now Isabel. So that's kind of, I think it's two separate motions, I think. But yeah, any questions on that?
Yeah, I think makes complete sense. I think the only thing I would actually, so makes complete sense, actually no problem with the motion, right? Just two things. One, to keep in mind, one of the reasons why I currently am a signature on that account, and we actually stayed a signature, is some of the oversight on construction. And so I don't want extra construction expenses to be circumvented from me actually being an approver. right? So as a guarantor of the debt and construction, I actually want to maintain some line of sight into construction expenses.
I think that, Kyle, can you talk a little bit about, because we talked about that this is a separate account.
Yeah, it's going to be tailored to the operating account for Seed LA School, not addition. We're not touching approval authority at the moment for the Seed Facilities account.
Yeah, but I have access into all accounts. I just want to make sure, and we all know we're paying stuff out of, like, we're moving stuff around. It's the spirit of what I just said, right? Like, I'm not, again, no problem with the motion.
Okay.
I just want us to be very clear as to why we remain in that position. That with $94 million of guarantee, I remain responsible.
Yeah.
I don't want a mistake on this one.
Me either.
Great.
So, go ahead. So, I mean, sorry. Go ahead, Leslie.
No, it's okay. I can wait until after the vote.
So let me just read the motion and make sure that this is what we need. Here is the motion is to add Jillian Juman, head of school, and Isabella Costa, secretary of Seed LA Board, as authorized signers of the Seed School of Los Angeles County bank accounts, specifically accounts ending in 5956 and 9714. Which are those? What are those two accounts? One's the Seed School operating, and what's the other one?
The interest account related to Seed LA, but it's used simply to pass interest along to.
And there's two separate motions there. One is around management of the account, and the other one is adding as a signer for both myself and Isabel.
Oh, I skipped it.
The one she read though is just the, yeah.
I'm sorry, I skipped it. Sorry.
No worries.
So, I'm sorry, clarifying question. Are we not adding Jillian to all accounts? Are we just only, so that's a question.
I think that is, I'm gonna jump in a little bit. I think that is also a question. I think right now we're kind of most worried if I can't get a credit card if I'm not on the operating account, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a larger conversation that we need to have, whether it's today or another day, but around which accounts I'm being added to and what that looks like. I don't have a full spectrum of that, but for today, particularly, the operating account is where I've been focusing. Do you have some thoughts there, Leslie?
I can't imagine that a head of school would actually not have access to all accounts. I would just say that. And it's really problematic if it's true at some point. Like, it might not be problematic initially, but it ultimately would be. So that's what my opinion would be, that if the executive is the executive and you will sign off on the audit with whoever your finance person is, you should have access to those accounts. So that's one. I have other opinion, but that's just that.
So then to that point, so then why don't we just change the motion and have it be that the CLA adds the head of school as a manager of all of the accounts, right? Instead of just the Seed School of Los Angeles? Is that what?
Or it wouldn't be, we would take out school's operating account. We just take that out and just say, yeah.
Can I just ask the Seed Facilities account, Laura, would we need, all these lenders to approve it, adding the signatory? I just want to make sure.
No, the only
No.
account that is a little quirky is the restricted, the DACA account, the controlled agreement account, but the other two are
Okay.
fine. And this
Okay.
one should be fine too, because you can have anybody sign
Okay.
it who's
I just want to
authorized.
make sure we
Okay.
don't have to go through anything. Okay, good.
We can't even move money out of there, so it doesn't matter.
No, we can't.
Only the lenders can tell us to move money, so it doesn't matter.
There was just a point of clarity. Jillian just said that she couldn't have an account, a credit card, unless she was something on the account. I don't know that that's factually true.
I think, just to clarify on that, I think when we started it, like, the application was all under your name, Leslie. And so I think that the question was, like, as head of school, it felt like she should be listed as the manager of the Seed School of LA and could then, like, sign off on her own credit card, board approval, right? And so that's part of the genesis of some of that change. It's like they needed board action to show that.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, I think yeah. So can we jump into those? I think, yeah, there's a lot of complication in that. So can we jump into the motions unless there's other thoughts or questions around the bank accounts that only Kyle can answer, or maybe Leslie?
Okay, right, any more questions? Sorry, you guys. No? So the first motion will be the board adds the head of school as a manager to the Seed School of Los Angeles County accounts. Does that then include the facilities and all that? Right, that should cover it.
I might just make a specific notion, like including the Seed Facilities LLC account.
We lost you, Kyle, including.
Yeah, Kyle, your voice went out at the end
Yeah.
of that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, including the Seed Seed Facilities LLC account.
And is that all with the National Council? I mean, the
City
National Bank?
City National Bank, Seed Facilities LLC. Okay, so just keep correcting me. Motion to add the head of school to the Seed School of Los Angeles County bank accounts at City National Bank, including the Seed Facilities LLC account. Is it all in there? Did I get it, Kyle?
I think that's seems great.
Okay,
But this is a separate motion from the side, like specific.
next we'll do the next one. That'll be the next one. I got you. Okay. Motion to add the head of school to the Seed School of Los Angeles County bank accounts at City National Bank, including the Seed Facilities LLC. May I have a second?
Second by Isabel.
Thanks, Isabel. All those in favor say aye. Ruth Stafford, aye. Oh, Stafford, aye. Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Thank you. Rod Hamilton,
Aye.
Jackie Kimbrough,
Aye.
Isabella Costa.
Aye.
Motion is passed unanimously. Okay. So the next motion is under the fiscal policy update is to add Jillian, head of school, and Isabella Costa, secretary of the Seed School of Los Angeles Board, as authorized signers of the Seed School of Los Angeles County's bank accounts, right? That's what we're talking about next.
Facilities LLC.
And okay. So this 5956 and 9714 are those two other accounts plus facilities.
Yeah, I think you don't necessarily need to specify the accounts. I think you can just say all.
Right.
That's including the Seed Facilities LLC account.
Right. And these are all the same accounts at City National Bank we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
They're
all
all
are linked under the same umbrella, so they're all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Any questions? No? Okay. Motion to add Jillian Juman, head of school, and Isabella Costa, secretary of the Seed School of Los Angeles Board of Directors, as authorized signers to the accounts at City National Bank.
So moved.
Fantastic, Rod. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Ruth Stafford, aye. Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Rod Hamilton. Great.
Aye.
Jackie Kimbrough.
Aye.
Isabella Costa.
Aye.
Great. Motion is passed unanimously. Oh,
Excellent.
Jennifer, can you hang for one more minute?
Oh, absolutely. I was just giving you a heads up.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's great, because now we're moving into your territory anyway. And we will, God, you guys, I know we've hit the wall here.
The
Okay.
recommendation for the audit committee.
Yeah, no, I know. Isabel, you have to go. Okay, Thank you.
I have
Actually,
to
I'm
go
going to stay on
also,
for
I'm
the,
sorry.
I'll stay on for the audit, but I have to jump off right after that.
Okay, so let's get the audit done. Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer Price-Lesher, and then we'll move really quickly because we've got to approve this budget before we got to approve these last few things. So hopefully we'll keep quorum.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be quick, although underscoring that something such as an audit should not be taken lightly or quickly. I hope you've all had the opportunity to review the audit. Much credit and gratitude to the team at XED and the team with CDLA and everyone who helped put together such a clean audit in an expeditious way. There are some audit committee minutes, which I believe have been circulated, but if they have not, they will be. In short, the audit committee met via Zoom on January 19th, 2022 for a presentation from Brian Hung of Novogradac and Company. You may recall we approved the appointment of Novogradac back in May of 21. And at that time, thank you, Woody, for tracking this down. We did also approve the audit committee, which consists of Joe Blackstone, Sandy Nasseri, and myself. And what I'll say is that we met on the CDLA consolidated audited financial statements for the period of January 2nd, 2019, which is the inception of Seed School LA, to June 30th, 2021. So it's a 2.5 year span, and that was at the recommendation of the auditor. Also present at the meeting were Kyle Goss, and then Ruth was there with us. And so, basically Novogradac shared that all the numbers were fairly presented in all material respects, and that the financial and reflected the financial position of CDLA as of June 30th, 2021. And they shared that the numbers were accurate, that adequate controls were in place and appropriate, and that CDLA had sufficient liquidity to meet its obligations as they become due. If you have questions, Kyle is here to sort of talk us through the audit with detail. But what I'll share are some highlights. Again, this is a consolidated audit for the three entities, Seed School LA, Seed LA Facilities, and the Support Corporation. And they, again, issued an unqualified opinion. It was a strong audit. There were no areas of concern. They did highlight new accounting pronouncements that we'd need to think about in the years ahead, and additional items for us to consider for the future, including, I guess, the pronouncements related to leasing, which will become more clear over time. Our functional expense allocations as we begin to become an operational school and not just in our construction phase. And to think about our unrestricted liquid net assets and our position. They did recommend, and I know we've just talked about the financial policies, but that we get very clear on our policies related to unrestricted net liquid net assets and how many days cash on hand. I think right now it's 90 days in the audit. It's 3 months in the financial policy that you just received, and Kyle was going to affirm whether or not that was in compliance with our covenants, with our charter, and with our banks and such. But we also, as a board, can decide whether 90 days, even if that is in compliance, whether we think we should have more. So something to consider moving forward. And I don't know if I have anything else to add. We had asked for a couple of clarifications. One being that we just wanted to make sure that this 2.5 year audit was in compliance with everything that we needed to be with respect to.
Sorry, I'm just gonna.
You're back. Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Just making sure that that we were in compliance with all legal requirements and banking requirements. Kyle or Ruth, is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to add? And does anyone here have any questions with respect to the audit as presented?
The only thing I'll add is, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you on this, but Brian and I did connect after the audit committee meeting, went over the numbers and kind of affirmed that the length of this audit made sense given the kind of $2 million maximum. But otherwise, that was great, and I don't have anything to add.
Thank you. I think the one other thing that we wanted to know for sure was what the date was for us to secure the auditor for the next round. Did we get that date yet?
Officially the end of March.
Great. So we will need to engage the auditor by then. So Ruth, we can touch base on that because I believe that does require a vote in this body as well. Okay.
That's great.
So with that, does anyone have any questions or discussions regarding the audit?
Jennifer, when do we need to make a decision on how much operating cash we need on hand available to us? Because I noticed it's 90 days in the audit, and then I found the financial statements, the forecast is 35 days, if I recall correctly. So, and then you're correct on the policies, it says something different. So when do we need to get clarity on that?
Kyle, do you have any insights on that? I know for the audit, we are, I believe, moving forward with the 90 days for now, but if we need to change the policies to be in alignment or the audit to be in alignment with the policies, we should do so.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I'm not sure Anita or anybody else, if you have strong thoughts on that. I think, I know, and I didn't look this up directly, but I'm almost positive we have a 45-day cash on hand covenant. And I think that in my mind, as a new, like, brand new opening school, that seems like 90 days is great, but 45 days seems like a good target initially to just try to hit that. But I think my question would be like, there's I think a long-term goal. I think maybe the policy is aligned to a long-term goal, and we acknowledge that we might not hit it for a couple of years as we grow. But I don't know. I don't know that I answered any questions there, but that's just some thoughts.
Can I make a suggestion? And then just whoever I cut off, please jump in. We're about to lose everybody. And there's a couple things we still have to approve. So this is something, and Jennifer, tell me if this isn't comfortable. I think this is something we can sort out and then make a recommendation in our next board meeting, right? I
agree. Yeah, and it's audit, but really finance, really. So it's in tandem. I think the other thing that the auditor signaled was this will become more important as we become operational. That's where the cash starts to flow. And Jillian, I'm sure you've experienced that. Right now, everything is fine. We've got plenty. But once we open, we need to be ready for that.
And I would say as soon as our new budget drops, we need to have a plan for it later on in the spring. So yeah, 100%.
Great. So with that, I'll move quickly and say that the audit committee unanimously voted and agreed to recommend the CEDLA board approve the audit for June 30th, 2021. So I will read the motion as stated and see if you all would approve it. So the audit committee of the Seed School of Los Angeles recommends that the board approve the consolidated financial statements for the Seed School of Los Angeles, Seed LA Facilities, and Seed LA Support Corporation for the period of January 2nd, 2019, inception, to June 30th, 2021.
I second. Okay, sorry. All those in favor say aye. Ruth Stafford, aye. Isabella Costa. Okay, got it. Aye. Jennifer Price-Lesher.
Am I allowed to vote if I'm aye anyway, just to cover the bases?
Exactly. Jackie Kimbrough.
Aye.
Rod Hamilton.
Aye.
Great. Motion to approve the recommendation and the audit is passed unanimously. Thank you. And Jennifer, thank you. That was beautifully done. Very much appreciate it.
And I'm so sorry. Will you still have quorum if I leave? I am now 15 minutes late to a staff meeting.
We will still have quorum if you all stay.
Well,
Everyone-
I am also going to another meeting right now.
So let me just tell you, we need to pass this budget, which everyone has had and looked at, which is the next item, you guys. Beck, I know I'm kind of skipping over you for a minute. I know. So, and we also need to pass these foundation, the Seed Foundation payment memo and the payment agreement from XED. We could do that very quickly if everyone's had a chance to look at it. This is the budget that incorporates, so we had been operating from that small ramp up budget that was, $650,000 that we had originally put together. And this one brings us up to date. Am I right, Kyle? Am I characterizing that properly?
Yes.
Including the fundraising from the end of the year. Jillian, jump in, so that this is much more reflective of our ramp up budget for this year zero, as we've been calling it.
That's right. I mean, I'm happy to go into some details, but I just want to make sure that everybody's okay with that before I do it.
Okay. Everyone's looked at it, right? Everyone had it. We've talked about these numbers.
I move we accept the budget. It's Rod.
Okay, Rod, I second your motion to accept the 2021-2022 updated budget. I second that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye, Ruth Stalford. Rod Hamilton.
Aye.
Jackie Kimbrough.
Aye.
Thank you. Isabella Costa.
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Great. Motion to approve the budget is approved. Thank you very much. Unanimously. So then we have these two other payment agreements, which was, and Jillian and Kyle also jump in, the Seed Foundation agreement and the XED agreement. We'll do them separately, but also just, I can characterize them. These are to cover the costs of what has been, the work that has been done up until now and will be done. While we have agreements for when the school begins with both entities, this is to cover all the work that has been done, as well as what we forecast going forward. And so we wanted to codify these charges and fees and put them in a place, in a format that will, is compliant with an audit and that reflects all of the work that has been done. Good. I'm looking at you, Jillian, looking at you, Kyle. Did I characterize that properly? Okay. And so both of those agreements have been circulated and reviewed, I hope. Were there any questions related to any of those?
There was just a follow-up on the Seed contract. I noticed that HR was now completely removed from the agreement of support. Did I read those bullets correctly, Leslie?
It should not have been.
So I'm looking at page 1 and I see financial, legal, regulatory, and administrative oversight, but I don't see anything about human resources.
It should not have been. That's a mistake on our part.
Okay. Does that change the fees associated with? No, okay. Just wanted clarity. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I rolled off. I had no idea what time it was and
I know, we're way over.
No, it's okay. I had but I left my board chair on hold, so I probably wasn't hugely successful.
Sorry. So with this agreement, then we could pass a motion to approve the agreement pending the inclusion of the HR. Do you want us to add that in pending a revision? Or let's say I'm asking.
Do you need a revision or can you just write in HR and I'll?
Yeah. We
don't need a revision.
I don't think so. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So I bring a motion to approve the agreement with the Seed Foundation As circulated. May I have a second?
I second. It's
Second.
Rod.
Thank you, Rod. All those in favor say aye. Ruth Stalford, aye. Rod Hamilton.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye.
Thank you. Isabella Costa.
Aye.
Anita Landecker. Why am I'm looking right at you. That's why I was like, I'm getting loopy myself. Who did I leave out? Jackie, did I ask you? Did I lose you? Lost Jackie. Damn it. All right, I have Isabel, I have Jennifer, I have myself, I have Rod. Great, we have enough. The motion is passed to approve the Seed Foundation memo. Great agreement, sorry. Okay, so let's move on to the payment agreement before we lose anybody else with XED. Motion to, it's similar. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, thanks.
I do not.
Great.
Do you want me to pass the motion?
Great, yes, please.
I pass the motion to approve the service agreement with XED for the term July 1st through June 30th of 2022 as presented.
Second by Rod.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Ruth Stalford, aye. Rod Hamilton,
Aye.
Isabella Costa,
Aye.
Jennifer Price Lesher.
Aye. And I have to go.
You did it. We
But
did it.
Okay.
Woo! We did it. Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. So
Sorry, I have to leave too.
I know you all have to
Thank you.
leave. So we obviously, sorry, Rebecca, you sat there the whole time and we never got to you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Well, now you have more time to prepare for the next meeting. Okay, and so because we no longer have quorum, we are not going to move into the next areas of our agenda, which includes a closed session, which we will not be having. And it is just us, so we also don't need an open session. There's no one here besides us chickens. So with that, I believe we can adjourn this meeting. What do you think, Jillian?
Let's adjourn it.
Yeah, let's go, please. Thank you all for all the work and thank you for all being here. And Beck, I'm sorry we didn't get to you. I
No
apologize.
problem. Well, Can
All
we?
right, so the Seed School Board of Directors special meeting, January 25th, 2022 is officially adjourned at 1:21. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aye.
Woo, thank you all.
Ruth, can you turn off, I just want to ask you a question, but can you turn off the recording?